Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. This morning we'll be in 1 Chronicles chapter 4, verse 5 through chapter 5, verse 17. Asher, the father of Tekoa, had two wives, Helah and Nara. Nara bore him Ahuzam, Hepher, Temeni, and Hahashtari. These were the sons of Nara. The sons of Helah, Zereth, Zohar, Ethnan, and Koz, who was the father of Anab, Hazobeba, and the clans of Aharhel, the sons of Haram. Jabez was more respected than his brothers. His mother had named him Jabez, for she said, I experienced pain when I gave birth to him. Jabez called out to the God of Israel, If only you would greatly bless me and expand my territory. May your hand be with me. Keep me from harm, so I might endure pain. God answered his prayer. Caleb, the brother of Shuha, was the father of Meher, who was the father of Eshton. Eshton was the father of Beth Rapha, Paseah, and Tehina, the father of Ir Nahash. These were the men of Rekah, the sons of Kenaz, Othniel and Sariah, the sons of Othniel, Hathath and Menothai. Menothai was the father of Ophrah. Sariah was the father of Joab, the father of those who live in Ge Harashim, who were craftsmen. The sons of Caleb, son of Jephnah, Eru, Elah, and Nam. The son of Elah, Kenaz. The sons of Jeholol, Ziph, Ziphah, Tiria, and Asarel. The sons of Ezra, Jether, Mered, Epher, and Jalon. Mered's wife, Bithiah, gave birth to Miriam, Shemai, and Ishba, the father of Eshtemoa. His Judahite wife gave birth to Jared, the father of Geder, Heber, the father of Soko, and Jechthiel, the father of Zanoah. These were the sons of Pharaoh's daughter, Bithiah, whom Mered married. The sons of Hodiah's wife, the sister of Naham, the father of Keilah, the Garmite, and Eshtemoa, the Maacathite. The sons of Shimon, Ammon, Rina, Ben-Hanan, and Tilon, the descendants of Ishai, Zoheth and Ben-Zoheth. The sons of Shelah, son of Judah, the father of Lekah, Lada, the father of Marashah, the clans of the linen workers at Beth Ashbea, Jocham, the men of Kozabah, and Joash and Seraph, both of whom ruled in Moab, and Joshabi-Lehem. This information is from ancient records. They were the potters who lived in Netaim and Gederah. They lived there and worked for the king. The descendants of Simeon, Nemuel, Jamin, Jarib, Zerah, Shaul, his son Shalom, his son Mibsam, and his son Mishma. The descendants of Mishma, his son Hemuel, his son Zachar, and his son Shimei. Shimei had 16 sons and 6 daughters, but his brothers did not have many sons, so their whole clan was not as numerous as the sons of Judah. They lived in Beersheba, Moladah, Hazar-Shual, Bilhah, Izim, Tolad, Bethuel, Hormah, Ziklag, Beth Markaboth, Hazar-Susam, Beth Biri, and Sharaim. These were their towns until the reign of David. Their settlements also included Etam, Ain, Rimmon, Tochen, and Ashan, 5 towns. They also lived in all the settlements that surrounded these towns as far as Baal. These were their settlements. They kept genealogical records. Their clan leaders were Meshobab, Jamlech, Josa, son of Amaziah, Joel, Jehu, son of Joshabiah, son of Sariah, son of Asiel, Elioenai, Jacobah, Jeshoiah, Asahiah, Adiel, Jesimiel, Benaiah, Zizi, son of Shippi, son of Alon, son of Jediah, son of Shimri, son of Shemaiah. These were the names above. Those who were named above were the leaders of their clans. Their extended families increased greatly in number. They went to the entrance of Geder to the east of the valley, looking for pasture for their sheep. They found fertile and rich pasture. The land was very broad, undisturbed, and peaceful. Indeed, some Hamites had been living there prior to that. The men whose names are listed came during the time of King Hezekiah of Judah and attacked the Hamites' settlements. as well as the Munites they discovered there, and they wiped them out to this very day. They dispossessed them, for they found pasture for their sheep there. 500 men of Simeon, led by Pelatiah, Neriah, Raphiah, and Uzziel, the sons of Ishi, went to the hill country of Seir, and defeated the rest of the Amalekite refugees. They live there to this very day. The sons of Reuben, Israel's firstborn. Now he was the firstborn, but when he defiled his father's bed, his rights as firstborn were given to the sons of Joseph, Israel's son. So Reuben is not listed as firstborn in the genealogical records. Though Judah was the strongest among his brothers, and a leader descended from him, the right of the firstborn belonged to Joseph. The sons of Reuben, Israel's firstborn, Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. The descendants of Joel, his son Shemaiah, his son Gog, his son Shimei, his son Micah, his son Reiah, his son Baal, and his son Bera, whom King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria carried into exile. Bera was the tribal leader of Reuben. His brothers, by their clans, as listed in their genealogical records, the leader Jael, Zechariah, and Bela, son of Azaz, son of Shema, son of Joel. They lived in Aroer as far as Nebo and Baal-Meon. In the east, they settled as far as the entrance to the desert that stretches to the Euphrates River, for their cattle had increased in number in the land of Gilead. During the time of Saul, they attacked the Hagrites and defeated them. They took over their territory in the entire eastern region of Gilead. The descendants of Gad lived near them in the land of Bashan as far as Salecah. They included Joel, the leader, Shapham, the second in command, Jeni and Shaphat, and Bashan. Their relatives, listed according to their families, included Michael, Meshullam, Sheba, Jorai, Jachin, Zia, and Eber, 7 in all. These were the sons of Abihail, son of Huri, son of Jeruah, son of Gilead, son of Michael, son of Jeshaiah, son of Jado, son of Buz. Ahi, son of Abdiel, son of Guni, was the leader of the family. They lived in Gilead, in Bashan and its surrounding settlements, and in the pasture lands of Sharon to their very borders. All of them were listed in the genealogical records in the time of King Jotham of Judah and in the time of King Jeroboam of Israel. Okay. So you had essentially Judah's descendants, and I think Simeon or Reuben's descendants as well. And Hur and Asher and Simeon. So, and these lines of descendants spanned a long time, I think, because you have King Hezekiah being mentioned as part of this, and that's at least several hundred years past King David. So. You also have a random prayer of Jabez in the middle of this. This man, Jabez, is one of the more interesting briefly mentioned people of the Old Testament. We only know of him from this text and from the town of scribes that may have been named after him or associated with him in 1 Chronicles 2:55. While through these genealogies, and indeed through all the history, we are occupied with those connected with government and the procession of events leading to universal issues, it is refreshing to be halted by the story of one man who took his need directly to God and obtained the answer of God's grace. His mother called his name Jabez. This name is associated with pain or sorrow. For some reason, probably surrounding the circumstances of his birth, his mother named him this. Because of the strong importance of the idea of a name in ancient Hebrew culture, this idea of pain was connected to Jabez, perhaps especially in his growing up. Also, you had the sons of Bethiah, the daughter of Pharaoh, whom Mered took. The wife of Mered here intended is Bethiah. Her identification as a daughter of Pharaoh would locate this event during the early part of Israel's sojourn in Egypt, that is, before 1800 BC, the union probably being made possible because of Joseph's prominence. Interesting. So you had part of Israel intermarrying with the royal household. And this would be before Israel has grown odious in the eyes of the Egyptians. You also had the sons of Simeon here. Simeon and Levi, two of the sons of Jacob, massacred the men of the city of Shechem, and were therefore cursed to be scattered. Therefore the tribe of Simeon did not have a province to call their own, only these cities, villages, and dwelling places. The census data, both at the beginning and the end of the book of Numbers, indicates that the population of the tribe of Simeon decreased radically during the wilderness years of the Exodus. They were among the largest tribes at the beginning and among the smallest tribes at the end. Anyway, carrying on. Acts chapter 25, verses 1 through 27. Now, 3 days after Festus arrived in the province, he went up to Jerusalem from Caesarea. So the chief priests and the most prominent men of the Jews brought formal charges against Paul to him. Requesting him to do them a favor against Paul, they urged Festus to summon him to Jerusalem, planning an ambush along the way to kill him. Then Festus replied that Paul was being kept at Caesarea, and he himself intended to go there shortly. So he said, "Let your leaders go down there with me, and if this man has done anything wrong, they may bring charges against him." After Festus had stayed not more than 8 or 10 days among them, he went down to Caesarea, and the next day he sat on the judgment seat and ordered Paul to be brought. When he arrived, the Jews who had come down from Jerusalem stood around him, bringing many serious charges that they were not able to prove. Paul said in his defense, "I have committed no offense against the Jewish law, or against the temple, or against Caesar." But Festus, wanting to do the Jews a favor, asked Paul, "Are you willing to go up to Jerusalem and be tried before me there on these charges?" Paul replied, "I am standing before Caesar's judgment seat, where I should be tried. I have done nothing wrong to the Jews, as you know very well. If then I am in the wrong and have done anything that deserves death, I am not trying to escape dying. But if not one of their charges against me is true, no one can hand me over to them. I appeal to Caesar." Then after conferring with his council, Festus replied, "You have appealed to Caesar you will go." After several days had passed, King Agrippa and Bernice arrived at Caesarea to pay their respects to Festus. While they were staying there many days, Festus explained Paul's case to the king to get his opinion, saying, "There's a man left here as a prisoner by Felix. When I was in Jerusalem, the chief priests and the elders of the Jews informed me about him, asking for a sentence of condemnation against him. I answered them that it was not the custom of the Romans to hand over anyone before the accused had met his accusers face to face and had been given an opportunity to make a defense against the accusation. So after they came back here with me, I did not postpone the case, but the next day I sat on the judgment seat and ordered the man to be brought. When his accusers stood up, they did not charge him with any of the evil deeds I had suspected. Rather, they had several points of disagreement with him about their own religion and about a man named Jesus who was dead, whom Paul claimed to be alive. Because I was at a loss how I could investigate these matters, I asked if he were willing to go to Jerusalem and be tried there on these charges. But when Paul appealed to be kept in custody for the decision of His Majesty the Emperor, I ordered him to be kept under guard until I could send him to Caesar." Agrippa said to Festus, "I would also like to hear the man myself." "Tomorrow," he replied, "you will hear him." So the next day Agrippa and Bernice came with great pomp and entered the audience hall along with senior military officers and the prominent men of the city. When Festus gave the order, Paul was brought in. Then Festus said, "King Agrippa, and all who are present here with us, you see this man about whom the entire Jewish populace petitioned me both in Jerusalem and here, shouting loudly that he ought not to live any longer. But I found that he had done nothing that deserved death, and when he appealed to his majesty the emperor, I decided to send him. But I have nothing definite to write to my lord about him. Therefore I have brought him before you all, and especially before you, King Agrippa, so that after this preliminary hearing I may have something to write. For it seems unreasonable to me to send a prisoner without clearly indicating the charges against him." If you have no reasonable charges against this man, then release him. Oh, man. People. Yeah. At this point, the charges are being a Christian and saying things about Christianity. Yeah, so the Jews again attempted this ploy of, okay, let's get Paul transferred to Jerusalem so that we can ambush him along the way and kill him, because it's not going to be by a fair trial that he ends up dying. So. Acts 24 ended with the transition from the governorship of Antonius Felix to that of Porcius Festus. Felix was undoubtedly a bad man, but history tells us Festus was basically a good man. He governed well, despite all the problems left to him by Felix. This statement, "After 3 days he went up from Caesarea to Jerusalem," hints at the good and energetic leadership of Festus. Upon arriving at Caesarea, the capital of the Judean province, he immediately made the trip to Jerusalem, probably the most important city of the province. Though it had been 2 years, the case of Paul was still important to the religious leaders. They hoped to make Paul appear before them again in Jerusalem. We can see that Paul's generous imprisonment in Caesarea was actually a providential provision of protective custody against the murderous intentions of the religious leaders. It was also a season of rest and replenishment after his years of hard missionary service, preparing him for the challenges in the years ahead. Yeah, so then the Jewish leaders bring many a charge against Paul, but couldn't make any of them stick because they had no evidence for any of them. So after all this, yeah, Festus wants to send Paul to Jerusalem, but Paul saw through the plot against his life and appealed to Caesar. So you have King Agrippa and Bernice coming down to Caesarea to see Festus, and Festus laying out Paul's case before King Agrippa. Festus, new to his post and perhaps unfamiliar with Jewish traditions and customs, seemed to be somewhat confused by Paul's case. Therefore, even though there was not enough evidence to convict Paul, his investigation continued. The case was probably confusing to Festus because of the lack of concrete evidence, but of course there wasn't enough evidence to convict Paul of the accusation against him because he had done no wrong. This was reason enough for acquittal, which was denied him. Yeah, and Festus was ultimately surprised that the accusations levied against Paul were um, religious matters, things that Festus viewed as unimportant. It's amusing to think of the religious leaders protesting to Festus that Paul won't stop talking about the risen Jesus and hoping that the governor would make Paul stop. Yeah, a certain Jesus who had died, whom Paul affirmed to be alive. The limited knowledge Festus did have regarding Paul's preaching shows that in his preaching, Paul emphasized the death and resurrection of Jesus. By implication, it also shows that Paul emphasized the cross. It's hard to believe that Festus knew that Paul preached that Jesus died without also hearing about how Jesus died. Yeah. Carrying on, Psalm chapter 5, verses 1 through 12. Listen to what I say, Lord. Carefully consider my complaint. Pay attention to my cry for help, my King and my God, for I am praying to you. Lord, in the morning you will hear me. In the morning I will present my case to you, and then wait expectantly for your answer. Certainly you are not a God who approves of evil. Evil people cannot dwell with you. Arrogant people cannot stand in your presence. You hate all who behave wickedly. You destroy liars. The Lord despises violent and deceitful people. But as for me, because of your great faithfulness, I will enter your house. I will bow down toward your holy temple as I worship you. Lord, lead me in your righteousness because of those who wait to ambush me. Remove the obstacles in the way in which you are guiding me, for they do not speak the truth. Their stomachs are like the place of destruction, their throats like an open grave, their tongues like a steep slope leading into it. Condemn them, O God. May their own schemes be their downfall. Drive them away because of their many acts of insurrection, for they have rebelled against you. But may all who take shelter in you be happy. May they continually shout for joy. Shelter them, so that those who are loyal to you may rejoice. Certainly you reward the godly, Lord. Like a shield, you protect them in your good favor. Yeah. From Boyce, as David drew closer to God, he became more aware of God's holiness and man's sinfulness. This is a good way to measure how well you are praying, and whether, as you pray, you are drawing close to God or are merely mouthing words. If you are drawing close to God, you will become increasingly sensitive to sin, which is inevitable since the God you are approaching is a holy God. And finally, Proverbs chapter 18, verse 19. A relative offended is harder to reach than a strong city, and disputes are like the barred gates of a fortified citadel. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great day.